Hi everyone, my name is Justin. I'm the creator of OSnap, an iOS application for making time-lapse and stop-motion photography projects on your iPhone or iPad. In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at how to edit frames in your OSnap project, how to copy, delete, reverse, and remix frames. First, from the project home screen, I'm going to navigate to the frames editing screen. So let's just start with a couple of basic things. If you're not in frame selection mode, which we'll talk about in a minute, you can tap on any frame and it will take you directly into the project playback screen, paused on that particular frame. Looking towards the bottom of the screen, the black secondary toolbar that sits above the main toolbar has a couple of up and down arrows on it. Those arrows will simply let you jump to the end and beginning of the frames. This can be useful if your project has a large amount of frames, like thousands and thousands. The number 1, if I tap it, will turn on display of each frame number. This can be useful to help keep track of where you are when you're scrolling through a large number of frames. And the search button here will let you jump to a specific frame. I'll type in frame 48 and tap go, and notice that it scrolls to the bottom of the screen and the number 48 flashes. I'll do that one more time. We'll go 42. Okay. Now, looking towards the very bottom of the screen, I want to look at the main toolbar. The leftmost action button is the export button, which we aren't going to spend time on right now because I covered this exhaustively in another tutorial. The next button over is the copy and clone button. If I tap it, your first option is to clone this project. And what that will do is create a complete copy of the project with all of the same settings and all of the same images. I'll demonstrate. So the project is cloned. If I navigate back to the home screen, you can see we have a editing frames demo copy project. And the next item is to copy all frames to another project. So I'm just going to show you how that works. And I will use the editing frames demo copy project that we just created. And what that will do is copy all of the frames from this project into that project. So this project has 49 frames, and that project now has twice that number, 98 frames. The next thing I can do is copy all frames to this project, the third item down. If I tap it, it will copy all of the frames from this project to the end of the project, and you can see that now I have 98 frames in the project. And the last item is reverse order of frames. We'll look at that in a minute when we're demonstrating selection mode, but essentially it does exactly what you would expect, which is take all of the frames and reverse their order. Looking just to the right of the copy and clone button is the rotation button. If I tap it, I have options to rotate all of the frames 90 degrees, negative 90 degrees, or 180 degrees. I'll rotate all of the frames 90 degrees. Okay, and now if I go into the playback screen, you can see that all of the frames have been rotated to the right. I'm going to return to the home screen and rotate all of the frames negative 90 in order to put them back in their proper rotation. There are different situations when you might want to rotate frames. Maybe you accidentally had the camera rotated incorrectly when you were taking photos. Maybe you've imported a bunch of images from an outside source and they have weird XF data and they don't come in rotated properly. So it's good to know that's there for those situations when you need to rotate frames. And the last button on the right is the import button. You can use this to import frames from iOS Photos or a cloud service like Dropbox or Google Drive. We aren't going to spend time on this because we cover it extensively in another tutorial. So now I'd like to show you selection mode. In order to perform operations on only a specific frame or a group of frames, you can go into selection mode by tapping the select button in the upper right. An info button comes up that will give you all of the detailed ins and outs of selecting frames. And of course, we're going to cover those details right now, so I'm not going to read through this. So to select a single frame, you simply tap it. There I tapped on frame 13. To deselect it, you simply tap it. And if you want to select a group of frames, let's say I want to select frame 7 through 29. First, I will tap on frame 7, and then I'm going to double tap on frame 29. And the way that that works is if you double tap any frame that is after a selected frame or a group of selected frames, it will select all frames in between. I'll show you that one more time. So now I'll again select frame 7, and this time I'll double tap frame 33. So you can see that all of those frames have been selected. And if I scroll down just a little bit further and double tap frame 40, you can see that I've now selected all of the frames between the previously selected group of frames and frame 40. Now, if you want to deselect a group of frames, you can double tap any frame in the group and the entire group of contiguous frames will be deselected. So now I'd like to show you how you can relocate frames. I don't want to modify the positions of the frames in this project, so let's move back to the home screen and let's go into the copy project that we made. Now, if you remember, the original project had 49 frames, and after cloning this project, we again copied the 49 frames into this project, so now there's 98. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete those copied frames, so we're back to 49 frames, okay? And just to show you what this project looks like, it's just a car driving down to the end of a table and coming back. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to relocate a group of frames. And the way that you do that is by selecting a group of frames. Let's say we'll select 16 to 35. And then I'm going to long press where I want to relocate those frames to. So I'm going to long press on the first frame. A dialog comes up and I'm going to choose place frames before this particular frame. Now I'm going to deselect them all. And now we'll take a look at the playback screen. So you can see here that those frames have been relocated. This doesn't make for a very good stop motion project, but this is just a demo, so you get the idea. So for the moment, I'm going to stay in this copied demo project in order to show you a couple of more things. The first thing I'd like to show you is when you're in selection mode, essentially the bottom toolbar will change context. So a lot of the original operations that would act on all of the frames at once will only act on the frames that you selected. So for instance, if I select these last 7 frames and I choose the copy clone button, I can copy these selected frames to another project, or I can copy the selected frames to this project. I'll choose copy selected frames to this project, and now you can see those frames have been copied to this project. Also, the next item is the option to move the selected frames. Really, that's just kind of a placeholder in order to remind people who may have forgotten that they can move the frames before or after a target frame that they long press on. And the last item is reverse selected frames. We'll actually look at that in just a minute. Of course, you can also delete frames. You can delete the selected frames. And you can select just a group of frames and rotate only those frames. So now we can look and see that those frames only have been rotated in the project. So now I'm going to return to our original project and we're going to look at how to reverse frames. If you remember, this project originally had 49 frames and we took all of those 49 frames and we copied them to the end of the project. So it now has 98 frames. I'm just going to tap the number button so we can see where we're at. And what I'm going to do to demonstrate reversing frames is I'm going to go down and find frame 50 and I'm going to select it. Now remember, frame 50 would be the first frame of the copied group of frames. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom, double tap, and now I've selected all of these frames and I'm going to choose reverse selected frames. So now what we should expect is that we're going to have a type of yo-yo effect, something that you might see in an app like Boomerang. So the result should be that the project plays forward until it reaches the end, and then it plays backwards, and then it starts again. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so there you can see those frames have been reversed and it creates a kind of yo-yo project. Of course, there are a lot of different things you can do with reversing frames. This is just one example. So that covers it for this demo on editing frames in your OSnap project. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Thanks everyone for watching. If you'd like to see more tutorials, leave us your thoughts in the comments, or you can email us at osnap@osnapphotoapp.com.